Welcome back to Narrations. Tonight's story is quiet, awkward, painfully honest, and unexpectedly tender. The Big Sick isn't just a romantic comedy, it's about culture, family, fear, and loving someone when everything feels uncertain. This is the story of Kumail and Emily. Chicago in winter feels like honesty. The wind doesn't pretend to be gentle. The cold forces you to move quickly, to choose warmth deliberately. Kumail Nanjiani has grown used to that feeling, existing between discomfort and determination. By day, he drives strangers across the city. He listens to their stories, their complaints, their political opinions. He laughs politely, makes jokes to ease tension. Sometimes he imagines the car as an audience, that the city lights are stage lights, that this is all temporary. Because in his mind, this is temporary. At night, Kumail stands under dim club lighting with a microphone in his hand, chasing something fragile and powerful: laughter. Stand-up comedy is the only place where he feels fully autonomous. His jokes dissect culture, identity, awkwardness. He performs versions of himself, exaggerated, confident, self-aware. The audience laughs. And for a few minutes he feels chosen. At home, though, autonomy dissolves. His parents' house smells of familiar spices and expectation. Family dinners are structured rituals. His mother prepares food with love, but also with intention. His father speaks calmly about career paths, stability, security. And always, hovering quietly in the background, is tradition. Kumail is Pakistani, Muslim, the son of immigrants who sacrificed comfort to build a future in America. His parents believe deeply in arranged marriage, not as control, but as continuity, as protection, as cultural survival. Each week, a new, coincidental, dinner guest arrives. A young Pakistani woman, polite and prepared. Conversations carefully guided. Smiles practiced. Kumail sits through introductions with increasing discomfort. He's respectful, never rude. But after each meeting, he hides the woman's photo in a cigar box in his room. He doesn't confront his parents. He doesn't explain his resistance. He postpones truth. Because disappointing them feels like betrayal. And then he meets Emily. It happens after one of his shows. Emily challenges a joke from the audience, not aggressively, but intelligently. There's curiosity in her eyes, not mockery. After the set, they talk. At first, it's banter. About comedy, about identity, about nothing important. But the conversation stretches. Emily is sharp. Honest in a way that feels disarming. She doesn't flirt theatrically. She asks questions and waits for real answers. She isn't impressed by performance. She sees through it. Their first night together is impulsive but grounded. Neither expects permanence. Kumail has learned not to expect permanence. But Emily lingers. They begin seeing each other casually, or so they tell themselves. Late-night diners. Walks through cold streets. Debates about movies and culture. Emily talks about her graduate studies, about growing up with divorced parents, about the way independence sometimes feels like isolation. Kumail talks about comedy. About navigating two identities. About being too American for Pakistan and too Pakistani for America. But he edits himself. He doesn't tell her about the arranged introductions. He doesn't tell her that every family dinner feels like a ticking clock. He believes he can compartmentalize love. Keep Emily in one world. Keep his family in another. Emily senses the gaps. She asks gentle questions about his parents. About future plans. About whether they're serious. Kumail deflects with humor. He says, "Let's not label it." When she asks where this is going, he cares for her deeply. But he's afraid to choose her fully. Because choosing her means confronting everything else. Their relationship deepens despite his hesitation. They build rituals, inside jokes, shared playlists, lazy mornings. Emily begins trusting that this is real. Kumail begins imagining introducing her to his family, then immediately abandoning the thought. The fracture comes quietly. Emily finds the photographs. The hidden evidence of a life he hasn't admitted. The confrontation is restrained but devastating. Emily doesn't accuse him of cultural betrayal. She doesn't insult his family. She simply asks why he didn't tell her. And Kumail has no answer that doesn't sound cowardly. Because the truth is simple. He wanted both. Her love. And his parents' approval. Without paying the cost of choosing. They break up not in anger, but in sadness. In recognition that love without courage isn't enough. Kumail retreats into comedy again. He leans into jokes that land but feel hollow. His parents continue the introductions. He smiles mechanically, hiding heartbreak behind politeness. He believes he has time to fix things. And then the phone call comes. Emily is in the hospital. Collapsed. Unconscious. Doctors uncertain. Despite the breakup, he is listed as her emergency contact. He hesitates for only a second. Then he goes. The hospital room is sterile, humming with machines. Emily lies still, her vibrant presence replaced by quiet vulnerability. Doctors explain they're placing her in a medically induced coma while they search for answers. Kumail sits beside her bed, unsure of his role. Ex-boyfriend. Friend. Lover who never fully chose her. Emily's parents arrive soon after. Beth and Terry are exhausted, terrified, and immediately suspicious of Kumail. They didn't know about him. They didn't know their daughter was dating someone who kept her separate from his life. They don't trust him. And he understands why. But he stays. He stays because this time, avoidance isn't an option. Hospitals erase ego. The fluorescent lights don't care about pride. The steady beeping of monitors doesn't bend for denial. Sitting beside Emily's bed. The sharp wit, the quick interruptions, the way she would challenge his jokes mid-sentence, all of it is suspended. Tubes replace conversation. Machines breathe rhythmically where laughter once lived. Kumail talks anyway. He tells her about the nurses. About the snow outside. About a terrible joke he tried at a club that didn't land. He apologizes, quietly, even though she can't respond. Because this time, he doesn't want to leave things unsaid. Emily's parents, Beth and Terry, circle him cautiously at first. They're protective, confused, angry. They don't understand how their daughter could have been dating someone they never met, someone who never showed up to dinner, who never defined the relationship clearly. Their suspicion is justified. And Kumail doesn't argue. He answers their questions honestly, even when the answers make him look weak. He admits he avoided introducing Emily to his family. Admits he was afraid. Admits he didn't stand up for her. Beth's anger is sharper. Terry's disappointment quieter. But slowly, something changes. Because Kumail doesn't disappear. He doesn't make excuses and leave. He doesn't distance himself to avoid discomfort. He stays at the hospital through long nights. He sits with them in waiting rooms. He absorbs their fear as if it's his own. Shared worry softens edges. Beth begins asking him about comedy, not dismissively, but curiously. Terry listens when Kumail explains what it's like balancing immigrant expectations with American independence. Their conversations are awkward at first, filled with pauses and missteps. But grief makes honesty easier. In one vulnerable moment, Beth confesses how scared she is of losing her daughter. Terry admits he never knew how to navigate Emily's independence after the divorce. Kumail shares how deeply he loves her, not theatrically, but plainly. They begin to see him not as the man who hurt their daughter, but as someone hurting alongside them. Meanwhile, Kumail's own family remains unaware of the depth of his involvement. He continues attending dinners sporadically, still surrounded by quiet matchmaking attempts. The dissonance becomes unbearable. One evening, he finally speaks. He tells his parents about Emily. About loving someone outside their culture. About the hospital. Silence follows. His mother's face tightens with disappointment. His father's voice grows firm. They tell him that loving someone who doesn't share their faith, their traditions, their history, is a betrayal, not just of culture, but of them. Kumail pleads gently. He explains that love isn't rejection. That honoring family doesn't mean erasing himself. But his parents don't bend. For them, assimilation has already cost too much. Preserving tradition feels like survival. Kumail's choice feels like surrender. The confrontation ends painfully. Not with shouting. With withdrawal. Kumail is told quietly that if he chooses Emily, he cannot choose them. The fracture is complete. Back at the hospital, Kumail feels unmoored. He has lost his family's approval. He hasn't regained Emily's trust. He stands alone in a hallway between two worlds. But something inside him feels different. Clearer. For the first time, he has chosen honestly. Not strategically. Not cautiously. Openly. Emily's condition remains uncertain for weeks. Doctors search for diagnoses. Kumail and her parents cling to updates like lifelines. In the waiting, bonds deepen. They argue about trivial things to avoid bigger fears. They watch bad television in hospital lounges. They sit in silence when words fail. Kumail's comedy shifts too. He returns to the stage with new vulnerability. The jokes become less defensive, more confessional. He talks about love, about cultural collision, about losing family while trying to build another. Some audiences are uncomfortable. Some laugh. But the performance feels real. When Emily finally wakes, it isn't cinematic. There are no swelling violins. Just confusion. Pain. Recovery. She doesn't immediately forgive him. Healing is slow, physical and emotional. Kumail doesn't rush her. He answers every question without deflection this time. He tells her about his parents' ultimatum. About choosing her. Emily listens. She sees the difference. Not in his words, but in his steadiness. The reconciliation isn't about grand declarations. It's about growth. About Kumail no longer hiding pieces of himself to maintain comfort. They rebuild carefully. Not as a fantasy, but as two people aware of the cost of love. In the end, Kumail's parents remain distant. The loss is real. Painful. But Kumail stands firmly in the life he chose, not as rebellion, but as authenticity. The Big Sick isn't just about illness. It's about courage. About choosing love even when it fractures the life you've known. About understanding that honoring your family doesn't mean erasing your heart. Sometimes love doesn't solve everything. But it teaches you who you are willing to be. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this narration, please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next story.